Welcome back to the PricePlow Podcast. We are at Expo West and joined by Andy Holmes, Business Development Manager for Informed. I'm so excited for this episode today. We haven't done any real certification talk on the podcast. We talk a lot about regulatory. We talk a lot about testing. Talk a lot about these things. And I like to fearmonger a decent amount about like the dangers of what's out there. But today I'm hoping we get some like fun stories and some examples of what you guys do to help combat that. So Andy, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is you introduce yourself, but we also need to know about like LGC, which I'd like to hear about the corporate structure as well. So yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm the Business Development Manager for LGC Science. That's our parent company. And LGC has been around for almost 200 years. We've been doing anti-doping for 60 years, but finished product testing, like the products we see in the sports supplement industry, for about 20 years, which is about 10 years longer than our next closest competitor. And we are testing for things that are banned substances, so things you're going to find on the WADA list, like steroids, methamphetamine compounds, beta blockers, masking agents, anything that, you know, if you're a drug-tested athlete, will make you fail. But also, if you're a health enthusiast, things you don't want in your product anyway.
Right, so drug-tested athletes is obviously not the only people that should be looking for your stamp.
Right.
Is that what we call the stamp, the seal? Like
logo, stamp, seal, mark. So yeah, like when you see our seal, like one of the things you're going to notice is, yeah, we're testing for banned substances, and so you're getting Olympic level quality for everyone. And that's what happens when brands get on Informed Sport or Informed Choice. They're really signing up to have that Olympic level quality to everybody, not just drug-tested athletes. And so we verify things like, hey, is it made in a GMP facility? Hey, are they getting heavy metal testing done? We verify, are they getting label verification done? You know, all these things that you want done, but it's third-party oversight. So it's not just a brand telling you that, it's us telling you that as well, because we're looking over that.
Okay, so I don't know if you have a question. I was going to say our example is AM Performance. That's kind of how we all started talking. So I'd love to be like walked through the process of working. I don't want you to give away their manufacturer or anything, but it's made somewhere.
Right.
And so, yeah, tell us the process, but also like it seems like you have to audit the manufacturer themselves.
Yeah, we have to go through the manufacturer, and we obviously make sure it's GMP certified, but you know, one of the things we do, we've been doing this, like I told you, for like 20 years. So there's two places you're going to have a banned substance show up in a product. Because a lot of your people don't even know, like, what do you mean banned substances are in products? They actually, what we found is that it's about 1 in 10 non-third-party tested products could have a banned substance. And that's worldwide.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
how are those arriving in there? Are you blaming the brand, or are you like?
No, not blaming the brand at all. It's like, and the thing is, it's inadvertent. Nobody's doing this on purpose. 99.9% of the time, they're getting in there through raw ingredients, so that are coming in from questionable countries like China, and say, for example, in the same place they're making a protein or an amino acid, they're also making Sudafed. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to air hose this out. Now I'm going to make your protein. And there's some Sudafed in there. And it gets into the product.
Is this a real example, or are you just like saying stuff? Or like,
I have plausible deniability.
Okay. Just scratch that question.
I think it's important to keep that kind of question though, because you guys test for you test for levels of banned substance, like whether or not they're there, but you also qualify whether or not the manufacturing practices themselves are sound to prevent those things from happening, right? Because it's not always adulteration, sometimes it's a mistake.
Right. So we're looking at the manufacturer, and we go in there and we perform what's called an MAQ assessment. And so after 20 years, we found that, hey, raw materials could get in there. Or through the manufacturing process, like you suggested, there's also issues that could happen. For example, they could have banned substances in their facility running on the same line, and they're like, oh, I didn't know it was a banned substance. You know, one of the things that probably all of us might take is DHEA. DHEA is like Velcro. It gets into everything.
Really?
And so, like, DHEA is a banned substance on the WADA list, and it could cause you to fail a drug test. So I'm using that as an example because we've gone into facilities that they scrub it down, and 3 months later we still find DHEA in the product.
Really? So you basically will not work. No one using a manufacturer that will run DHEA can have your stamp on it?
Not necessarily. What it has to be is it has things like that. We look through the MAQ assessment. Things have to be segregated. There has to be cleaning processes involved. We look at quality checks throughout that. We look at manufacturing manifests. We look at raw material manifests. All these things, our whole job is to mitigate risk, bring up the quality as much as we can, and we work with the manufacturer, because a lot of these guys are doing an awesome job. We're just adding to that quality assurance at the manufacturing level. So they really love working with us as well.
Go ahead.
Okay, so continuing the process, using Applied Nutrition AM Performance as the example, you go and you vet out, or you have already vetted out the manufacturer that they've chosen to use.
Right.
And now they start running AM Performance pre-workout,
sure,
for instance.
So what we'll do with that is we'll take at least 3 blinds from a lot, or up to 5 blinds from 5 different lots, manufacturing lots. So every time they turn those machines on, there's a new lot number. So with Informed Sport, we test every unique lot tested pre-release. So before it goes out to our viewers, before it goes out to athletes, before it goes out to anyone, we test it. It doesn't leave the manufacturer. So we'll take at least 3 to 5 samples. We'll test them. As long as they all pass, we allow that product to come onto the program. That being said, we also take a retain. So whenever that we test a product, we take a retain. So, for example, and this is what happens, is like an athlete tests positive.
Right.
He's like, oh, this caused me to fail a drug test. Well, all right, well, it's open. So, okay, do you have anything closed? No, it's open. Hey, we have one that's closed, so we can test this. And so then you start to see the real truth come out. So it's part of a safety measure.
You've mentioned testing a couple times. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Is it a drug screen? Is it testing for label claim? What exactly does Informed Sport test for?
What Informed Sport tests for is 285 285 plus banned substances from the WADA list. Now, what's different than that than, say, label claim or heavy metals or whatever, is you're testing parts per billion. To give a good idea what parts per billion is if you had a teaspoon of methamphetamine and you threw it into an Olympic-sized swimming pool, we'd find all of it. I think what they say is like a million seconds is 11 minutes, and a billion seconds is 31 years. So we're testing that low, and there's only a few labs that can do that. Now, when it comes to what you're talking about, like, say, label verification, heavy metal testing, all that stuff, we are verifying that's getting done by accredited labs. So you have that third-party oversight that, like, hey, you don't get on our program unless you're making it in a GMP. You have these heavy metal testing. All this stuff is getting verified by us before it even gets onto our program.
But you're not doing the quantity testing. Like, let's say that pre-workout says it has 4 grams of citrulline, and let's say there's only 3 or something. You're not capturing, or you don't care about that necessarily.
We do care about it because we require them to have that testing done before they are even allowed onto the program. So we verify that being done. What we're doing is so specialized. That stuff is really kind of commodity testing. There's a lot of people, like USB does a great job. UL does a great job. There's a lot of accredited people out there who can do that kind of testing. What we do is so specialized. Like I said, there's only a few labs that can do it.
But it's super helpful. And you do, for the record, offer some other certifications like Informed Protein that you do label claim on.
Oh, yeah.
I was giving you a layup to tell that.
Oh,
but it's okay. It's okay. I think that, like, it's funny. Even myself, just starting to understand you guys, I understood sport and protein, but then I went to your website and I found Informed Manufacturing, Informed Ingredients. And there's so many different ways that you verify so many different things, and it's kind of just crazy how much you guys have.
Yeah, we're found, like, our products are found in over 120 different countries. We're the world's largest third-party anti-doping certification, and through that we work with manufacturers all over the world, we work with brands all over the world, and we want to mitigate risk, and we want to bring up the quality of products as much as possible. So, like with Informed Protein, we saw a thing right after COVID where it was so hard to get any kind of raw material of protein that there was kind of, not the greatest quality coming in, because there's always people, when there's like low supply, saying, hey, I've got the supply, and it's not what they say it is. And we were approached actually by a brand that said, hey, these guys are selling this at such a low amount, like cost-wise, there's no way that's 90% WPI. And they said, hey, would you guys test this? And what we found was there's actually a want and a need that brands are like, hey, we want to test to a high level, for protein, because protein, there's not a lot of margin in it. You can always fool the test. You can, there's people who do unscrupulous things sometimes, not everywhere. There's a lot of people doing things right. But what we do with Informed Protein is we test within 2% of label claim.
Wow, okay.
Nobody else is doing that.
A lot of people are doing like 10% or whatever. So when you mention the unscrupulous stuff, like a lot of this, and we haven't talked about it on the podcast for a while, it's amino acid spiking, for instance. So nitrogen-based amino acids can be used to fool a nitrogen test.
Right.
So a creatine molecule has like 3 nitrogen atoms on it. Taurine, glycine were traditionally used back in the day, and we had this long, blog post talking about this.
Yeah.
And so if you just do a standard nitrogen test, which is like kind of like the default definition of protein in per the FDA, it can get by. So how are you testing even better than just a nitrogen test?
Well, what we'll do is we'll not only look at the nitrogen, but we'll look at the carbon ratio, and we will verify that there's what the carbon to nitrogen ratio is over multiple lots. And so that's established. We'll do a free amino acid screen to see if they're adding in extra amino acids for nitrogen spiking, through that. Plus we run, this is the other thing too, which is really bad, is if you have straight up nitrogen spiking with melamine, alamine, these are high nitrogen compounds that could cause liver toxicity.
Yeah.
So again, it's not that we have a lot of great, the industry's great and they do a lot of great things. We're just elevating this up. Now in 2023, we ran an in-house study at our lab in Kentucky, and we found 1 in 4 didn't hit label claim. We did 63 brands.
Proteins bought off the shelf.
None of them Informed Sport or Informed Choice, but we found 1 in 4 didn't hit label claim.
Wow, how were they like horribly off, or what to you? What is it, 2% or?
They weren't terribly off, but some were more off than others, and you're like, whoa, there's a large variance.
Right. Uh-huh.
So we're like, there's something here. And so what I say with someone like Applied Nutrition, when you see Informed Protein, they're holding themselves up to an extremely high standard of protein quality. Within 2% or better, that's unheard of. So you're looking at something that's like, it has to be within 2% of label claim or over. They're making sure they're hitting that because they don't want to not hit it.
No, because then they lose certification or have to do a rerun or whatever.
Yeah.
So Hybrid Protein is the product we're talking about. If you have an Informed Protein stamp on your bottle, are you also doing the drug testing while you're at it, or is that 2 separate completely things?
That's a great question. It's 2 separate ones. So you could have the protein one and not do Informed Sport or Informed Choice. So we really recommend you do both, because that's going to be the highest level of quality you can get.
So you mentioned you have a lab in Kentucky then, but you're pretty heavy in international. This must be like some crazy state-of-the-art stuff because you're doing part per billion, or?
Well, we had a lab in Kentucky, and they consolidated it all in the UK.
Oh.
So, for example, to this month, we've had the highest number of tests we've ever had in the last 20 years. So we're doing more in 1 month than our next closest competitor does in a year. So,
really?
And this is why, like when I was talking about parts per billion, it's so interesting because this is so like specialized testing. You have to be really good at it. It's kind of like if you're the only one who can do one thing, you're the expert, and only certain people can do it. So you want people who've had a lot of repetition with it. And so we're really proud of that, and we've done it really well for a long time.
Can you repeat that? You guys test at a higher level in terms of protein claim than pretty much anyone else does, that 2%, but also the frequency. What was the statistic again?
Well, with Informed Sport and Informed Choice banned substance testing, we're testing more in 1 month than our next closest competitor does in a year.
Jeez.
Okay. Is that because of the amount of clients that you have, or okay?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and you can't be wrong, because here's the thing. So like heavy metals, it's terrible if you have heavy metals, but you don't see an athlete sue a brand,
right,
a manufacturer, a dietitian, a strength coach because they had too much heavy metals in something. you do see them sue them if they're like, hey, you told me to take this, and I got popped for methamphetamine.
It's a funny thing that we've kind of mentioned recently. There's been a lot more testing coming out about heavy metals. It's kind of like, it's a very easy thing to test for. So it's so everyone's doing it and making a big deal about it, but there's toxicity over time, but like there aren't really any like acute issues that are presenting very quickly about heavy metals. It's mostly a legal issue.
Yeah.
The Proposition 65 in California. That's like really where most people are getting out of pocket about it. But like I think there's way more pressing issues in label claim, in adulteration, all sorts of other stuff.
So I'll give you guys a story, and this is why I think and I also am in banned substance testing, so that's my wheelhouse. So it's not that I don't think heavy metals is not important. It is, but so imagine if you had, heaven forbid, someone in your family goes through cancer, and then they go through radiation, and they go to a dietitian. They're like, hey, you really need to up your calcium because you've gone through radiation treatment. We'd like you to bring more calcium. And they go to, I don't know, some corner drugstore, and they buy calcium. We found noradrenaline in calcium from China.
Are you serious?
So you're not only getting calcium, you could be getting noradrenaline. So you know
what nandrolone is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
It's insane, right?
Yeah.
You could that's an example of what we found there. And I don't want to paint a bad picture to the industry, but there is a threat out there, and there's a reason why we exist. So that's not an athlete at all. That's just quality.
Okay, but so it would be in the perfect world, I would say, if you really, really care, and I am saying if you really, really care, you get informed sport, informed choice, or informed protein or whatever.
Right.
Are there any? My mom buys calcium tablets. Are there any informed calciums?
I believe there is. I'd have to double check our catalog and see what's in there. But so we'll multivitamins, things like that. There's stuff out there that's not specific. Sports nutrition.
Right.
But the thing is this is the level of quality things have gotten to. Some of the talks we have on the roundtable is, I think in 2017 they said 30% of all adolescents in the United States are taking supplements. So this is the first generations that mom and dad took supplements. So it's only growing bigger, and people know why they take things, and they want that quality. You, me, everybody wants Olympic level quality. They want, it's not just for the big leaguer, it's for the little leaguer. If I had a son, I'd buy him this because I'm like, I want the best for them. And so why should not the entire, anybody using products have the best stuff?
I love Olympic level quality. I love that phrase, Olympic level quality. That sounds great.
I agree. I like the fact that parents are the first generation. This is the first generation of parents who use supplements. So they're more willing to give it to their children, but we've become very protective of our children too. So oh, okay. That's funny. I'm getting old.
I know, I'm getting old. I know, because I remember, I don't know about you guys, but I used to bring out big old things of, say, Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard Weight, and I'd take up all the room on the counter, and my mom would yell at me. She's like, what is this? Why do you even have this? We live on a cattle ranch. You don't need to take protein. We have plenty of it in the field.
I'm gonna send that clip to my mom.
Yeah.
Our cupboards were full of protein.
Yeah.
Mine are still, but
mine are parents, still too.
Yeah. My dad's like, I don't get these 5-pound tubs. They're just so big.
It's taking up so much room. It's like.
So how did you get into this personally? You obviously look athletic and everything. What's your
oh wow, that's a trajectory. So when I was in college, I did 3 sports.
Really?
Yeah, I did track and field, football, and I was on Nebraska's Olympic lifting team with a guy named Roger DeGarmo, and I was always sore. I was tired all the time, sore. I wasn't making gains, stuff like that, and I ran into a guy, Dr. Jose Antonio, and he started talking. Yeah, and he started talking to me about, hey, you need to start taking some protein, some creatine, and he was really a great guy to be around because he would answer my questions. Because like any kid, I was like, why? And I noticed that that effect helped me not only not be sore, but perform better, and I could do all that stuff and really live better.
Not to date you too much, but when was this?
This is back, oh man.
In college?
When
did you graduate college?
This had been back in the beginning of the 2000s.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're about the same age, but
Yeah.
Dr. Antonio was like on the forefront of we had him on the podcast, and he's talking
did
like
you?
they're
Okay.
getting in fights at their conferences over creatine. Like it was so controversial back then.
It was very
So you've been
controversial.
in this for a long time.
Oh, a long time. And so then afterwards, I had the opportunity to do 2 Olympic sports. And so, again, you're training, at a high level. And, if you want to, just keep up, you just can't, everybody has good, a weightlifting program. Everybody has good coaches. Everybody has good facilities. What changes is how fast can you repair? And what's your nutrition like? Are you getting enough sleep? Can you repair fast enough? And supplementation's huge with that. So that's where I think there's a big benefit to that kind of thing.
Right. We often see we often see studies where people don't get as excited over a recovery study, but for people who charge it as hard as you, like that, you got so much other stuff covered. Like getting back in is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Did you make it to the Olympics? Or?
No. I got beat up. I got beat up pretty good. No, I had an opportunity with USA bobsledding. It didn't take it, and it was great. I had a great experience. All that stuff. Didn't take it. Actually went back and worked the family ranch for a long time, and then later, God blessed me with an opportunity to do judo at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs.
Wow.
And that is like having a car wreck every week because all you're doing is getting thrown by other people.
You're a judo athlete?
Yeah.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We're going to drill some Uchi
I was
Manas
going to
later.
say, do we have room right here? Move this table?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the table out of the way. I don't want to do the
see some
podcast
throws.
anymore.
Yeah. Do you guys know Jeff Stout?
We know the name.
Yeah.
that name.
Yeah, he's an ISSN guy. He's
Yeah.
a judoka too.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a judoka.
Yeah, we
too.
cite a lot of his
son-
studies. Like,
Yes.
His
Yeah.
son is a stud.
Really?
So I trained under a guy named Ed Liddy and another guy named Ryan Reeser. Eddie was he was at the 1984 Olympics in LA, and then Ryan went to Beijing. So
No way.
yeah, there's a difference. Like I said, when I got beat up, but
Right.
I learned some good judo.
There's levels
It's fun.
to it,
Talking match.
There's
That's so
levels.
cool. Are you still doing judo, or what did you?
No,
what
I
did you
kind of transferred to Jiu-Jitsu, and so because
No way.
it's not as Jiu-Jitsu's really hard, but judo you get thrown, so it's like a car wreck.
Right.
Yeah, so like it's
better on the
it's
bones.
I'm sorry.
damaging.
Stuff like-
Give me 5 minutes. I'll go back on track. Where do you train?
I trained at Deboa Jiu-Jitsu in Surprise, Arizona, but then
Oh, cool.
But now I'm going to school, so I'm not there very often at all. But I'm an old Charles Gracie
Cool. Okay.
kid. So my godfather, he got me totally into jiu-jitsu. Like, that guy is a stud. He's 68 years old, and he's the only 68-year-old guy I fear. So, like,
Get that.
yeah, he's
I get that.
amazing.
Sorry, I want to make it just one.
No, I was going to ask, when did you get into jiu-jitsu?
Oh.
Like, when did you make that transition?
Oh, man, I
Obviously,
made that transition actually before I started doing judo, because he was like, you got to do jiu-jitsu, And this is like when jiu-jitsu was mainly Gracie's. And I didn't know anything about it. I'm from a small ranch in Nebraska. I don't know anything about this. And so I'm like, I didn't even wrestle or anything. So I was like, all right. And I was doing this and I thought it was fun. And he was so kind. My godfather, of course, is so kind to me, but he knew Charles Gracie. So I got to meet him and I was inspired by him. And there's a lot of, I got to meet a lot of real nice people, and that's a really nice community. And so I really latched onto it. Judo came along with that. My father is black belt in judo. My godfather is a black belt in judo. And so, I had that kind of background already. But like I said, I wasn't great or anything. I just got beat up a lot. I was good. I was around great people.
That's incredible. That's sweet. Okay, so I guess I was trying to get, how did you end up working for this company?
Okay.
And I also need to understand LGC versus Informed, a little bit of the structure.
Yeah.
In 200 years. So a lot of stuff, yeah. On your arc, though, how did you get into testing?
I got into this because there's a guy, believe it or not, David Sandler.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right.
No, David Sandler was like, hey, have you heard of Informed Sport and Informed Choice? And I go, yeah, I know those guys. I think they do testing or something. He goes, yeah. He goes, hey, they're looking for someone to come in and do business development. And you have a background with military. You have a background with being a drug-tested athlete. You have a background with different things. You talk to dietitians, sports nutritionists, strength coaches. I think you ought to go talk to these guys. And so I got interviewed. I think I was 1 out of 16 guys that got hired, and the rest is history. And you learn a lot, and I really enjoy this. I really do, because I get to help people. Like, when we go talk to dietitians, I'm not selling them anything. I'm just like, hey, how can I help you? Like, oh, you need to know about this? Let me see everything I can give you. Oh, you have an athlete that's brought NIL, like, hey, they brought, this, and it hasn't been third-party certified. Can you run a test on it? Yeah, let me help you. Like, and you become an asset to people, and that's what, I think that's where a good relationship is. LGC, it stands for the Laboratory of Government Chemists, and they were actually the government chemists of the UK for a very long time. And in LGC, there's different divisions, and we're in a standards division, which does human drug testing, like drug testing for horses. Like, they started out with horses, and then they went into got dog racing, pigeon racing, and thank goodness I don't have to take the biologics from the pigeon. So I'm not getting the piss from a pigeon. No, thank you. But like humans, and then they got into supplements. And so I work for that division that does the supplements, which is informed choice and informed sport. And so that's how I got in.
What were they testing 200 years ago?
Things like strychnine.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, yeah, weird, huh? Like, there was like a lot of stuff, like when they were, and they, like I said, they've only been testing for banned substances in competition, man, not very long. But back in the old days, the screen was really low. But as, things have developed, and as, doping has developed, we're always chasing. We're never ahead of it.
Right.
And so we're like, oh, SARMs. Oh, this is unique. What's this? And so now you have to add SARMs to your screen.
So let's talk about SARMs real quick. Before, like right when they get hot on the scene, first off, the Olympians were possibly using it well before any of us had ever heard of it. So, but at some point, it comes out into, like, Ostarine comes into the discussion, but it's not yet a WADA banned substance. But
oh yeah,
it's bad news or whatever for eventually. So, like, what is your company's take on that then, and Informed?
Well, that's a good question, because do you remember DMAA?
Of course, yeah.
So we found DMAA. We called WADA and said, hey, we found something that looks a lot like this compound, which is illegal. I don't know if you guys seen it or not. We should tell you about that. We have a great study about how we followed the path of DMAA, DMBA, DMAA, all that stuff, and we followed that, and all those are on our screen, but we discovered that, and we'll talk to international anti-doping agencies and say, hey, this is what we're finding. So, like, that's the cool thing about all that history and all that knowledge, is that, we're working synergistically with the industry, doping agencies, manufacturers, trying to put out a good quality product for people.
Okay, so hypothetical example. Let's say that there is a new SARM, new molecule out there, and it's called benstarine or whatever, and it's not yet on WADA.
Very powerful.
It'll throw you. So it's not yet banned officially by WADA, but that's coming. If it's found in someone's pre-workout or whatever, do you start testing for it before it goes on the WADA list? Would you fail it?
Well, it all depends on what it is and how it shows up, but a lot of them are similar in molecular structure, so we'll see those on a monitoring list that we run as well.
Okay.
So, like, this would be a question probably for one of our scientists, but we'll pick it up. We'll see it, and we'll say, hey, this doesn't look right. So, like, there's going to be protocols and procedures that are put in place to protect the athlete, protect the brand, and protect the manufacturer too.
Yeah, like on the way on our Uber out here, Cody and I were talking about how, like, they retain urine and blood. I'm not fully sure of how the Olympians work, but a lot of times they're doing back testing on older stuff. It's like this crazy arms race and everything. So I wasn't sure of where exactly you fit into, like, the past, present, future.
Well, what's kind of cool is we do use different methodologies. One of the things we use is something called high resolution accurate mass, where we can look at stuff retroactively as far as testing results. So if there's new compounds that come on, we can say, oh, that wasn't in there. So it's kind of a cool thing. And now we're starting to talk above my pay grade as far as science.
Right. Okay.
But like we run a lot of tests and we're really good at what we do. What's kind of cool and nobody knows is, I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but like no one's ever failed on an informed sport or an informed choice product. And that's really cool because we've been doing this for over 20 years.
So that's actually huge.
That means the manufacturers that you're working with are doing really well.
The manufacturers are doing really well. The protocols that we're putting in place to mitigate risk they're doing what they're supposed to.
But I'll say it again because I was trying to pull it out before, and I want listeners or viewers to like understand like it's important that you guys have that metric that no one's ever failed on that, but it's not surprising because you guys don't just test for the presence. You guys uncover the entire way and like there shouldn't be a situation where you ever fail because of maybe a lapse in testing or something, because you've functionally looked at the manufacturing process, right? Like a lot of people out there just test,
right?
And if the test passes, it's fine. But you guys are actually certifying. You're actually like showing the process that this is foolproof in a lot of ways.
Right. We're going to go not only at the manufacturing level to mitigate risk, but then we're going to finish the finished product testing. When we test that, if we don't pick up everything, it goes back. We're going to like test it again. We got to be absolutely sure. And sometimes, to be transparent, you have some brands who are like, hey, I need this like today. And we're like, hey, man, we need 2 more days because we want to make sure this is 100% the way it is.
Right. It's not just going through like one machine. You probably have a lot of
there's a lot of process involved. And so they're like, well, we really need it today. I'm like, hey, look, you want us to be accurate. Yeah. You pay for this type of level of testing, this type of level of accuracy. And so when you explain it to them like that, it's cool because it's not just a marketing like badge. It's actually a symbol of quality. And I tell brands, I'm like, it's also like our testing is so low, it stands up in a court of law. So it might be an insurance policy for a 7-figure lawsuit.
That was a question I wanted to ask. Is like, at what point are you a part of the regulatory team for these people? Like, if someone is informed sport or informed whatever, and they do have a situation where someone pops or something, like, do you guys go to testify for them? Do you like?
Well, it doesn't even usually get to that because, we're like, oh, really?
Once the retained passes, then they usually change their tune.
The thing is, what's kind of cool about us is we have a great track record, and obviously lawyers are involved in the people. There's certain lawyers that kind of handle that. When they see informed sport and informed choice, they're like, what else is your athlete taking? What is it? Bring us everything he's taking, because that stuff has gone through some of the best testing that's available, and so the likelihood of that happening is extremely low. And like with informed sport, like with applied nutrition, it doesn't leave the manufacturing plant until it passes the test. So it's not even out there. So it's ridiculous.
That was one of the questions earlier I want to ask is, when you're taking the initial test, is that off of a finished product that's been sealed?
Yep.
And it gets sent to the UK now. So you have to, for American manufacturers, you got to
Do you guys source it yourself?
No, so it has to be, we'll either source it ourselves through a blind, or we'll have it sent strictly from the manufacturer, from that finished lot, to the UK. They'll actually send 2 of them.
Right.
One will test, one will keep as a retain.
Mm-hmm. What do you do anything at all to account for the possibility that you could be getting sent a certain lot for a certain reason? Like, that it's not what is actually going out there?
No, that's a good question. So when we developed, and I wasn't around when they did this, but they developed informed sport, and they're like, oh, every lot tested. Well, let's say Ben tells me he's making 2 lots and he's making 222 lots, and he's just sending me the 2 lots he says he's testing.
Right.
Well, we take blinds from the retail area. So we'll go and say, let's say Ben's selling his stuff at GNC, he's selling it on Amazon, he's selling it wherever. Depending on product frequency, we're going to reach out, and he doesn't know where we're getting it. We're going to pull that blind, we'll test it, and we're like, well, look at this lot number. We haven't seen that. And we're going to be like, all right, we want to see a batch manifest of everything. Yeah. And it's like everything, it's like red lights, everything stops.
Because you test every single lot.
Every single
Right.
lot.
There's no lot that should ever be unheard of, like on the bottom.
Yeah. So basically, well, I would say every single lot that your stamp is on, right?
No, every lot on Informed Sport is tested. Every one.
Well, like, okay, I'm launching Ben Nutrition.
Okay.
And I have a athlete line and I have a black line.
Okay.
And Informed Sport is the athlete line, but my black line doesn't.
Yeah.
So there, like,
the black line, wouldn't have it, but
anything that has the seal has to be tested consistently.
Yeah, and we always tell athletes, go to our website, look up Ben's Nutrition Sports or whatever, and you can see all the tested lot numbers. That's really important. And I mean, yeah, it's an extra step, but like when you're talking about people whose job it is, like sports nutritionists or sports dietitians or strength coaches, going that extra mile and saying, oh yeah, lot number BEN 154, BEN 154. Yeah, that's how you know quality is they list everything that they've tested. And we're really proud about making sure those are listed.
That database on your website is a huge value add to consumers. Not because a lot of consumers are brand first. They like buy something that they like, and then they go check out the quality of it.
Yeah.
But if you're an athlete, you could literally just live on your website and find your next pre-workout or protein through that way, knowing that it's going to be tested.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we've talked about Applied Nutrition a couple times. Are there any other brands that you're proud of that you work with closely? Or?
Oh yeah. With Raw has been excellent.
Nice.
They do Informed Sport. They do Informed Protein. Now Sports has been a tried and true. Almost their entire line is Informed Sport.
And that's interesting because they have so much lab testing themselves.
Yeah.
Like they're testing other people on Amazon and stuff. So they're going to you too.
Yeah, they come to us for the banned substance testing. They're like, hey, and those guys, we have a great relationship with them, and they love our testing, and they've been such great people to work with. Transparent Labs with Informed Protein, Informed Choice, they've done a great job. Caged Muscle has done a great job. GNC, they have Pro Performance and AMP. They're both Informed Choice. So they've done a real good job there too, and they do a lot of their own testing, in their manufacturing places too.
That's cool. But you'll go to GNC and buy one of their own things and ship it over to the UK.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, you said you were in the military too. So
I wasn't in the military. I was. I worked as a military subcontractor. So I worked for a military contractor, and they did stress mitigation and resiliency. And I got to work with a lot of neat guys who did a lot of cool things. And what was funny was they did stress mitigation resiliency, and resiliency kind of meant, well, let's talk about how to repair, and let's talk about supplements. And I got pulled in to a lot of conversations. And what really is kind of cool about that population is they don't play for points. And it really matters. Like, I remember my buddy Luke, who was with 10th and then 19th group, he's like, I don't care what's happening, I'm coming home. And so I am making sure that I'm getting what I need. I want to come home. I want the best I can get. And so those guys were a really cool population. There's a really great, I think probably one of the best sports dietitians in the country. She's the head sports performance dietitian for SOCOM. And she is phenomenal. And she's really gets it.
Where can we find? Like, do these people create? Like, I want to ask. Do they create content? Can I follow them on LinkedIn or like how do we learn from these kinds of people?
I'll have to see. Like with her, I'd have to see, but I could connect you to her. I'd have to ask her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what exactly are you doing for them? Are you still working with them now? Like, do you still do some education, or do they?
No, I don't work with that.
Informed stuff?
I don't work with that military subcontractor anymore. Right. I mean, I did that for a couple of years, but that background really helps you speak into that population.
Right, I see.
But like with SOCOM and the DoD, they're looking at it like, hey, we want the highest level of quality products that we can get for our soldiers and for mission. So they're like, hey, why wouldn't we get third-party tested? Why wouldn't we have this extra layer of quality and protection for our people? And so they're like, that's a big movement within the DoD community, especially SOCOM, because there's a lot of, they get drug tested whenever they come home.
Yeah.
So all that kind of stuff is huge. And you don't even think about that because you think about Olympic athletes, pro athletes, whatever. And these guys, they're tactical athletes.
What kind of drug testing do they do when they come home?
I think a lot of it is probably your standard drug testing, but like I don't do that. So like I'd have to get somebody in here who does that.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it makes sense. Like if the government's going to allow these guys or encourage nutrition in some way, you want to make sure that you get the products that actually stand up to the test. Otherwise, it just all backfire on you.
Well, it needs to be controlled, right?
Yeah.
No matter what you're putting in the system, you need to know what it is. You might disagree, and we always get these commenters. When we talk about like banned substance testing, they're like, no, I want the protein with the nandrolone in it.
Yeah,
Because they want
where's that calcium at?
Okay, it's a great joke. All right, awesome. Moving on. It's like if I want nandrolone, I want nandrolone, right? And if I'm getting calcium, I don't want nandrolone, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
You're like surprise.
yeah,
2 for 1.
I hate this. I hate this argument. We get it every single time. People are like, no, I want that pre-workout with the methamphetamine in it. Like, no, you want to be able to dose out your methamphetamine. There's a difference, right?
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, you think about it. You had those hardcore people, but most of those hardcore people, yeah, you can kind of make fun of them and all that kind of stuff. But those are the guys who are like, hey, I'm dialed in on what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want 30 milligrams of this. I want 20. I don't want 33. I want 30. And so they're like dialed in, just like you said. I don't want this plus this that I didn't know about. Thank you very much. I want to make sure that I'm dialed in because this is my jam. This is what I want to do. This is how I'm doing it. I don't want somebody to screw it up. So honestly, those are the guys who benefit from our stuff as well, I think.
Well, it's funny because when people talk about adulterants, oftentimes, or I mean, whatever, if it was a problem with manufacturing, whatever, any sort of banned substance that you find in a supplement, whether it's a stimulant or some sort of androgen or something, like that needs to be controlled, right? Like if you're some sort of tier 1 operator and you're in a high stress environment, more stimulants might not be what you want because that's going to jack up your heart rate and your blood pressure even more.
Right.
And if you do like to use those, we like to use stimulants. I like to know what it is, how much I'm getting, and how I'm utilizing it, right? I don't want to randomly get 3 milligrams of something. I want to know I'm taking this today and I'm going to be able to perform underneath this. Like, all right, and especially when you talk about nandrolone or something like that, which is suppressive for men, which it could be harmful to women. Like, I have nothing against using a little bit of nandrolone, but I need to know that I need to like get my blood work done if I'm going to do that, right? Like informed consent.
Well, and here's the other thing too is like you also have to look at it from a health conscious point of view. So let's say you are an operator. Let's say you're I don't know, just an average guy, and I just want to get some protein. And you know what? I got a stressful job. I'm on a high blood pressure medication, and you know what? Maybe it's down to its nanograms amounts of methamphetamine from a non-third party thing if it's in there. But like, you know what? Maybe you're taking some kind of medication where you don't want that stuff in there. And how do you take supplements? Every day. Maybe twice a day. And over time, some of that stuff could build up. It could cause, and there's not a lot of studies out there showing this. You'd have to find them. But like you said, you want to know about what you're taking. And you don't want to be like, oh, I wonder why my medication's not working very well. I wonder why I have to take more of this than I probably should be, So those are things that I think, you're just taking your supplement usage to the next level. We always say, and the big thing is with kids, it's not just for the big leaguer, it's for the little leaguer too. Because, like if I have kids, I had a guy call us up and he said, man, I have moms buying my protein. I don't need to get banned substance tested. And I was like, well, let me ask you something. Do you have any kids? And he goes, yeah. And I go, what do you got? And he goes, I got 2 little girls. And he goes, I got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I go, do they play sports? And he goes, yeah, they play soccer. And I said, what if the pediatrician or their or a dietitian said, hey, they're too skinny, they won't eat, they're not eating, and they're like, you got to get some more protein in them. Would you buy this product that's Informed Choice or Informed Sport that's been tested for testosterone? Or would you buy this one that's $19.99 and is the cheapest one on the shelf?
If nothing else, there's a lot of times where people get scared off, and And I feel like with supplements, I feel like women as a consumer is a great company to use this, because if they hear online like, oh my God, this protein was spiked with testosterone or whatever, like they should most women I feel like are going to want to know, I'm getting quality supplements here, and I'm not going to get some crazy hormone.
Yeah, it almost seems like, the perfect market is the middle-aged mother who is now open to buying supplements and everything. But I think we could help close this loop a little bit, because they care so much, but the product line has to have less fillers, organic, a lot of those things that make sense. But just because it has less fillers and is organic doesn't mean it wasn't run on something that just had Nandro on it or whatever it is. So there's definitely more opportunity here. That's interesting.
Well, you see, those are the people who are like, they care enough to like I know my mom, that care enough to be like, what are you taking? What is this? Like, let me research this, but like they research it and they're like, oh, okay, this is cool. I feel comfortable about bringing this home to my husband, my son, my daughter, recommend it to my friends, because you know what? It's some of the highest quality I can take. And that's the one thing we tell our brands is talk about it. Talk about what you're doing. And it does cost some money to do this banned substance testing. Not a ton, but they're investing in this. Talk about it. It's part of your quality assurance.
Interesting. Yeah, so like from your company's perspective, it makes sense. There's like a two-pronged like marketing angle, like not to talk too much business here, but like you want the consumers to be looking for the stamp.
Yeah.
But you also want brands to be pushing the stamp for you too.
Oh, yeah.
So like it can turn, and like Applied Nutrition, I think they're helping you push and everything.
I think
cool.
it's a synergistic thing, because they're helping us put that mark out there, and that's great. And we appreciate that a lot always, but it also tells a story about that brand. They're going to the level of getting that kind of quality out to not just athletes, but to everybody gets that level, level quality. Everybody. So you might just be playing racquetball, and that's your thing, and like, man, I really love their pre-workout. That's what I take that instead of coffee or something. And you know what? Like, wow, I get this. This is great. I'll take this, So that's what I think's cool about it.
I love it. Do you ever do any third-party testing that's not part of this program, or LGC is like all in on these types of programs?
We're all in on these type of programs.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I can't send you a hot dog and have you test it for Nandro.
You probably could. We could probably do that. Yeah. We had somebody want us to this is, and I don't think this is proprietary information, but we got asked to test a hamburger.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, really?
Okay, wait.
So I'm not the only crazy one out there.
No, but seriously, because I've heard some stories. Tell me, what was in the hamburger?
Nothing was in the hamburger.
Oh, really? I've heard
some
stories
people talk about beef
store-bought beef having
testosterone and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. But
I've heard of SARMs being found in them.
Did you really? SARMs? Like, I don't think there was anything in there. I'll have to go back and look at my notes, but this was a while back. I don't think there was anything in there. But
I heard this theory that like the beef industry was using SARMs because they're not testing for SARMs.
Look, I grew up on a cattle ranch. They don't have to use SARMs. If you want to use steroids, you could straight up put those into cows. But like you know.
This is my favorite part of talking to cattle. I have a lot of friends in Wisconsin.
Okay.
They would always say this shit. I'd be like, "Is your shit antibiotic free?" They're like, "Bro, I shoot them up with antibiotics until that last second before, and then I can tell you it's antibiotic free."
Yeah.
Right? Like you can do it the whole life, and then once you get off, what's the cutoff date? Like,
well, for us, we did all natural beef, and this is totally off topic. I'm so sorry. It's not even have to do with this.
No. This is interesting.
We did all natural beef, so we give them like they're called like a booster shot as a baby calf. That's it.
What's in the booster shot though?
It's just like basic like electrolytes and stuff like that, and stuff that I don't know if it's the FDA or whoever decides what all natural is. They're like, hey, you can have this, but if you gave them antibiotics, separate it out.
Right,
they're not part of that herd anymore.
Yeah.
How big is this ranch, or are they like how many head are you running?
I think we were my great grandfather ran a ton. My grandfather ran a ton, and then we ran enough to keep us busy.
Okay.
So it was enough.
You ride a horse or anything, or
do I ride a horse?
Yeah.
Not regularly.
Oh,
no,
right.
not regularly.
At that point, did you?
At that point, I had to.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
No, that's incredible. Yeah, that's what I was asking.
He's just running
You're
around
a real
on a
deal
quad.
cowboy.
No.
Is this our first cowboy
Absolutely
on the podcast?
not.
Probably.
I think
no,
you are.
absolutely not. No, thanks. I'm gonna probably turn red.
If
I know
you-
cowboys. I know real ones.
Oh,
No,
yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not.
Well, from our perspective, though, if you're riding a horse and you chased some cows around, then
Yeah.
you're a cowboy.
Well, I appreciate that,
that's-
but I probably would be. The guys that I know would probably be insulted
Oh,
by
right,
me being
yeah.
called that. So,
Can you wear a cowboy hat though with the amount of skills you have? Or
oh yeah.
okay, you're good enough. I tell my daughter she's into horseback riding and everything. She's
awesome.
getting into it.
Yeah.
Just started trotting, but I tell her like I'm not wearing a cowboy hat until I really learn how to ride a horse. That's like so I'm not doing it.
Well, I sympathize with you because that's an expensive habit for a little girl.
Thank you.
Bet your ass it is.
she got the bug. Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, you're a good dad.
Thanks. Awesome. I don't have any other specific questions. This has been fun and informative.
Yeah.
For sure.
How? I'm sorry. I have one last question.
Yeah, go for it.
How often do you find shit that you wish you could talk about but don't?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and this is the thing, is like, I don't want everybody to think like the industry's bad and like, oh, I'm finding stuff every day. But like, we find stuff and I'm like, what? That's in there?
1 in 10. You said one, like 1 in 10.
Well,
right?
yeah, but like, you're like finding stuff, you're like, what was in that? And like, we found, like, I can talk about it, but I just can't talk about the specifics. We found, God, what was that? In fish oil, we found, what am I thinking of? Now I just missed it. Well, like whatever they use
Performance enhancer?
for
Or?
morphine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At one time we
like
found
opium or like
yeah. It was like, and we're good enough. We can tell if it's straight up black tar or it came from poppies. So like we found that in there at a high enough level it would cause an athlete to fail, and I was like shocked, you know. And that
Where did it
that's
come from?
It came from poppies, and so that somehow got into the either through the manufacturing process or through the raw material somehow, and somehow it got in there. But we caught it. Obviously, wasn't out there into the public, but we caught it. The cool thing about like LGC or Informed Sport and Informed Choice, we do so much testing that we probably prevented a lot of people from testing positive. You know,
Oh, okay.
In the past, like over these years, 20 years, we've probably prevented a lot of people having problems, and that's what's kind of rewarding about a lot of this.
In an alternate universe where you don't exist, there's a lot more people
Popping hot.
on the New York Times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, are there any other stories?
See, I'll think of a good story. Like the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Let's see. What was one? Man, I'll have to think of some. But like, you'll have to have me back so I can tell you some more stories.
I'm sure we can do it.
Man, the morphine one that was crazy because you like fish oil. You're like, oh, that's safe.
And now that it's your job, does everyone like start chatting about like how could this have even happened? And they start going through the manufacturing process.
They always ask me, tell us the dirt. Tell us like what do you find? You know, like I'm like, we find a lot of stuff. Like, you know, we find some stuff. And like, you know, for a long time we found SARMs. SARMs was big for a while. Like Osterine, Arimastane.
Find things. Are you testing brands that think they're going to pass and then you find that? Is that what you're talking about? Or do you go out and grab stuff and test it to find out?
No, we have people who come to us and they want to get certified and they're like, look at the label. There's no banned substances in here. I'm like, dude, that's your label. Like, like, and I mean, I'm not trying to, not everybody's like that, but like I've had people like that. That's kind of a funny one. But I'm like, they're like, all right, you're not going to find anything. And I'm like, I hope we don't. I go, thank you so much. And so then it goes through and it's like, well, what do you mean it's in there? And I'm like, see, you didn't know. It's inadvertent. Like, you don't know that it's there. So that's why we test it.
Do you ever have people pull out because of this? Like, do you ever like have people like panic and like try to, because like they've
We've
already
had
paid
people
you for
panic.
certification.
We have people panic.
You're almost like the best sales guy for other quality manufacturers because people come to you, your team does a little testing, and they realize that they are manufacturing at a place that's doing midnight runs of SARMs or whatever, maybe back in 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, that some of these lower cost places may be doing it, and now they have a choice if they're going to stay at that manufacturer or if they're going to go to like one that you work with or whatever. Like,
yeah, the ones we work with are some of the highest quality manufacturers that you can work with. We also have a program called Informed Manufacturing, and we'll go into that place and we'll actually swab down the facilities. Those swabs we then take and we test them, looking for banned substances on the machines and throughout the manufacturing process. So it's very intricate. And you know, it's just, again, we're in the business of mitigating risk and improving quality.
Wow. Thank you so much for telling us the story.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird job, but it's out there and it's fun.
It's important. It's more than important, because for a while athletes had like no place to go for a little bit. Like I started PricePlow in 2008, and the DMAA days came up, and like there wasn't enough traction. People didn't know what to do, and there were also a lot of like I have a buddy who works for he's a doctor in the professional baseball league and everything, MLE, and so he was showing me some of the tested products back then, and they weren't that efficacious back in the day either. No. And that was the problem. Part of the problem is that a lot of the athletes wanted the good stuff, but they should only use the tested stuff, but there weren't as many quality brands.
Right.
I think like there's a ton of great brands that have informed.
Ton of great brands, and what's really cool is you have really great people who are the sports performance dietitians who are a lot more savvy about supplementation use. You know, they do a great job with dietitians and food and all that, but they're like, oh, this is where supplements are great for athletes, and they're bringing in these high quality third-party tested products, and they do an excellent job. And the ASPDA does a good job, in strength coaches too. Everybody's becoming aware of that, and you know why? It's because a lot of people get sued over all this stuff, and there's a lot of money riding on a lot of sports.
Yeah.
So, you know,
now big sponsorships in college too.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot out there now.
Yeah, so it's a big thing.
Yeah. One last personal question. If you're going to do a month of hardcore judo, what's your recovery stack? Like, what are you personally, ingredient-wise? You don't have to name names or anything.
No, I would totally do whey protein isolate. I would definitely make sure I have a multivitamin. I'd take a ton of fish oil, not because it has morphine in it. Thank you. But I would do that. Creatine's on there. And believe it or not, beta-alanine. Because beta-alanine buffering those positive hydrogen ions. Judo's a lot of gripping, and so pretty soon you can't grip anymore because of lactic acid. Beta-alanine, if you're fighting, you should be on beta-alanine all the time. All the time.
Do you ever talk about that at all, Ben?
Beta-alanine?
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's all gas tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
gas tank, how long can you go?
Yeah.
And the bigger you are, the more oxygen you're using, the harder it is to keep going. So if you're a big guy, like beta-alanine's your friend, you know. You're sweating like, you know, crazy, so probably some electrolytes, but, you know.
Right.
But like, yeah, that's, you know, during, but post, I would definitely take some beta-alanine as well.
Your fingers aren't too fucked up for a judoka and a jiu-jitsu guy.
You should see my broken toes.
Oh, man.
A lot of people get like really gnarly fingers from like gripping gis and
Right,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you should. I've had at
Do
least.
you do gi or no gi?
Oh, gi.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, especially being a judoka, that's probably your safe space.
Yeah, very safe space. Yeah, I've had like 3 broken fingers, maybe 4, and like 3 or 4 broken toes. So.
The toes from the mat or something?
Either the mat, people stepping on them, like getting thrown wrong and they just crunch or something like that. It's just a brutal
It's a crunch sport.
It's a brutal sport, but like, and what's funny is like you either get good or you get broken. Like you improve or you don't do this anymore. Like
my school is owned by the head ref for ADCC America.
Okay.
So like we're big on wrestling and judo.
Oh yeah.
I get it. We do all no-gi though, so a little bit easier on the fingers. But a lot of throws. It hurts.
So like Sala Riviera school, him and Sanji Riviera, they were like jiu-jitsu, you know, champions. But you could not be in there, like in their school without taking a judo class once a week. And so my background in judo really helped. And you know, that was a thing. You know, I had jiu-jitsu, and so when I was doing judo, I was really good on the ground in compared to judo guys. Sure. But then when I'm in a jiu-jitsu school, I'm really good standing up compared to being on the ground. So you get humbled wherever you go. So, which is good. It's good to be that way.
And that's where submission grappling as a whole is going. It's like all these things coming together. It's like MMA without the striking.
Yeah,
all that
it's
stuff
actually and I love that because they all kind of work together. They all fit together.
Cool.
You did say one other thing I have to ask about. You said you're in school. Are you going back to school right now for something? Or?
Yeah, I'm. It has nothing to do with this. So
okay, that's fine.
But no, I do. I'm going back to practical theology and leadership.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Okay.
So I do that.
Man of many talents.
Yeah, I work with youth, so it's a great opportunity. So Ottawa University has an awesome football team that I work with, and love all those guys. So I work with anywhere between 150 to 200 boys.
Dang. Cool. Andy Holmes, LGC, Informed Sport, Informed Protein. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Blast.
Yeah.
And thank you to Sense Up Your Flavors for letting us invade the booth and do the podcast here. Let me shake your hand.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thank you so much.
You bet, Ben.
All right.